This is the story of a place. Perhaps the most remarkable fishing place on earth. And of the greatest game fish of them all, His Majesty the Black Marlin. That's me, machinist and draftsman by trade. Fairly normal guy, I guess, except maybe for having a wife, foolish as I am about fishing. Matter of fact, it was Mildred who started the whole thing. She'd been reading some pretty wild newspaper stories about a fabulous fishing place in Panama, supposedly the world's greatest. Sure, why not Panama? Same year we can afford to go to the moon. But it couldn't hurt just to find out how much it would cost. The airline people make it sound so simple. The way the little lady had it figured, we could fish in paradise for about what it had cost to charter a boat for the same length of time on our coast. And we could be there in less time than we'd usually spend on a Sunday afternoon drive. Club de Pesca de Panama is 125 miles south of Panama City. But our flight time from Miami would be only 2.5 hours by jet and another 45 minutes by seaplane into the jungle. Well, it still didn't seem possible, but when the big Braniff jet began loading passengers for the non-stop Panama City run, guess who was there? We didn't even bother to gather up our tackle. Club de Pesca furnishes that too. Almost before we had time to realize we were going, we were almost there. We had changed in Panama City to the Grumman amphibian operated by Club de Pesca. And suddenly, there it was, a tiny clearing hacked out of the lush Darien jungle, the only civilization for 125 miles. A deep, protected harbor for a neat white fleet of cruisers. And suddenly, you're streaking in over the surface for a landing. The bay is the landing strip, and behind it is the open, blue Pacific. The Grumman just lumbers right out on land into the front yard. And it's quite a yard, like walking up a sidewalk into Eden. Other guests welcome you like long-lost friends. Maybe because behind those little thatched huts is 125 miles of impenetrable jungle. Sort of makes for togetherness. Inside, those huts are air-conditioned and plush as a first-rate hotel back home. Except for more atmosphere, ours had a honeymooner's view of the jungle in the bay. The bar was our first look at the plush interior of the club. It's hard to realize these ultra-modern furnishings include the only electric light bulbs for 125 miles. We got acquainted with the other guests fast, and they were telling tall tales about their day's fishing. We couldn't sleep that night just thinking about it. The first morning is a real thrill. You can't wait to get into that calm blue sea beyond the harbor. The ferry to our cruiser was a native cayuca, hand-hewn out of a single log. The scenery is so beautiful, it's hard to realize you're going fishing. It's more like some kind of a dream in Technicolor. But our deckhand went into action as soon as we got underway, rigging up to catch bait. Back home, this is the sort of feather jig we fish with, but not for bait. The hook was bent. The mate grinned. Sailfish like feathers, too. Leaving the harbor, we saw why Dallas businessman Ray Smith was willing to gamble $250,000 into a fishing resort. The custom-built fishing cruisers show where some of that money went. They were designed for this job. And they are fast. You're in big game fishing waters in 15 minutes. Here, you never take any bait, you catch it. I got a kick out of that. These big bonita, they called bait, put up a tough scrap on a hand line. Some of those baits would have been considered a big day's catch back home. Suddenly, we saw why they called this the most fantastic fishing place on earth. Acres of fish blasting the surface over this small submerged mountaintop they call the reef. Tens of thousands of bonita, blue runner, dolphin, feeding upon tiny sardines only 6 miles offshore. And in the background, you can always see the mountains. Here is a spectacle you see perhaps nowhere else in the world. The vicious, wild, beautiful story of the sea capsuled into one sequence. The story of survival. The bonita and runners feeding upon the sardines. The marlin and sailfish slashing through the bonita and runners, hurting them to the surface in terror. The birds swooping in from above. The sharks and giant marlin lurking below, picking up the cripples. Survival of the fittest and the fastest. The story of the sea. Panamanian skippers rig their baits like this one. The theory being that when a marlin swallows the bait head first, the hook folds back against the bait and the marlin can't feel it. The bait skips lightly on the surface, supposed to look like a scared bonita rushing across the surface. The outriggers serve 2 purposes. They provide a high angle of pull for the skipping bait so it doesn't plow into the waves and spin. And when a fish hits, the line snaps out to give slack line so the fish can turn around and swallow the bait before he feels any resistance. The heavy bait really pulls that pole. The setup worked all right, but not the way our skip baits work in the Gulf of Mexico at home. This big bonita looked to us more like a log crashing through the water. And Mildred told the skipper about it. Bring it in, she fussed, and we'll show you how to make a real skip bait. Well, the skipper, Archie, is from Colombia. He's caught many marlin, and at times he can understand just as little English as is necessary. Well, if you can't win, may as well relax and enjoy it all. But Archie's been looking at something, marlin. We saw the giant tail heading for the bait. But there's something else back there, a dark shadow, a shark. Diesel exhaust plumes up as the skipper turns on the power with both engines. It's a race. If we can outrun the shark, the faster marlin will take the bait. There he comes. Something's coming in fast. Strike! There he is, the greatest game fish of them all, the black marlin. One look at his size is enough. Mildred braces for action. Up he comes, fighting mad. He throws the bait. No, he's still got the hook. He's hooked deep. Power against a tiny line and skill and luck. He's coming up again. He's thrown out his whole belly from his mouth, trying to regurgitate that stinging hook, and he's beginning to bleed now. Brave bulls of the sea, they call the black marlin, big, powerful bulls. And they bleed like bulls, fighting to the death. Hands, arms, fingers begin to cramp from the strain of it all. It's like fighting a runaway horse on a thread. But he's tiring now, jumping slower and with less grace. You never realize how big these things really are until they're close. Big and brown, huge fins glistening in the sun. To us, he looked like a big whale. It just doesn't seem reasonable, something this big being gradually whipped by that tiny 50-pound test line. Now's the time, now or never, and she puts on the pressure. The big, wicked flying gaff goes into action. They handled him carefully. One surge of that tail could run that bill through a man like a shish kebab. Usually, marlin are released to fight again, unless the guest wants to take them aboard, and Mildred wanted this baby aboard that boat. Now Mildred's seen something else, something big jumping close astern. She was right. A sailfish, lolling at the surface. If he's only hungry. Here he comes. He hit the light tackle line even before I could get back to the chair. Careful now, this is tiny tackle. Let him take it. Let the reel run as he swallows it. Now throw it in gear and let him have it. Sock him time and time again. Drive that little hook deep into him. There he comes, not yet sure what has him. Or maybe he has me. High out of the water with that beautiful dorsal fin flapping around his shoulders like a cape. He's no record, we know that now. But the world record of a sailfish came from this same reef, a 145-pounder on 12-pound test line. But this is a mighty big sailfish just the same. I was plenty glad when the boat backed down on him to gain some line. He almost stripped the reel the first run. But he's had it now. The steel leader somehow cut a gap in his sail. He's not really hurt. He can still raise that sail, and he's still plenty mad. He'll live to stretch somebody else's line. Well, enough is enough for the first day. Shoulders are tired and camp looks mighty good, especially with a marlin aboard. On the way in, we got our first real look at the beauty of the club, the cabins, the jungles, and the flowers. Our friends from the night before came down to meet us. If our catch isn't bigger than theirs, we've really had it. We made some pretty big brags about it last night, too. Well, if this is all they caught, a couple of little 200-pounders. But come to think of it, people have spent lifetimes and fortunes just trying to catch one black marlin. The black is a rare fish everywhere else in the world. Usually a lone wolf of the sea and almost always big. Biggest black ever caught on the rod and reel weighed 1,560 pounds and was caught off the Peruvian coast, further down this same coastline from the same cold Humboldt current that flows by Club de Pesca. Nowhere else but here does this heavy-shouldered giant show up in such concentrations. At Club de Pesca, the boats sometimes average 15 black marlin strikes a day. We still had time before dinner for a trip upriver to the primitive Indian village in the jungle. And it's quite a jungle. 300 yards up this river, the 20th century ends. Well, with the exception of an occasional taxi, ferrying kitchen workers from Club de Pesca back to their homes in the village. That red parasol is apparently some kind of status symbol. Nearing the village, we decided this must be the greatest place in the world for a youngster to grow up. All they do, apparently, is swim and play in their boats. The boat is tailored to the boy. The smaller the boy, the smaller the boat. Some were less than 6 feet long. Entering the village is more like a scene from Mutiny on the Bounty. Children swim out to meet you, most of them naked and laughing, excited at getting a look at someone from the outside world. But some of the men didn't seem so happy about it all, and neither was Mildred so happy with them, nor their attire. We tried to talk to one of the more friendly ones. He was pretty proud of himself, but finally broke into a smile when we pointed to his bright-colored shirt and the dyes on his chest. His woman and child watched stolidly. These guys really aren't mean, just shy, our guide said. And this one was certainly friendly enough, showing Mildred how she pounds rice for her family. At sunset, we departed for a more modern dinner. At breakfast the next morning, fishing wagers flew between our friends at the next table, but all Mildred could talk about was the beauty of the huge dining room. Modern furnishings somehow combined artistically with jungle plants, fish nets, and a 10-foot sailfish up on the wall. After seeing the jungle upriver, we began to realize how much money and work it must have all cost. Offshore again, another school of baits surfaced around us. There just had to be something after all those bonita. And there is a fin stalking the bait, the trademark of a striped marlin. He may hit, he may leave. He heads straight away, jumping and picking up speed as line screams off the reel. But this one is acting strangely. Archie turns the boat as the marlin changes direction. Here he comes back. He may be going to charge the boat. Here he comes. Archie shoves the throttles to dodge him. The deckhand is going to take the dare. He's going to try and land him when he charges. Here comes the charge, ramming that big bill right into the boat. Wham! This marlin is really mad and no joke for the crew. A charging marlin's liable to do anything. He charges again and again, but the deckhand cuts him loose and lets him go. We've had all of that when we want for this day. But this next monster is really something mean. He hit like a pile driver. And when he took off greyhounding, we knew this was the old man of the sea. Archie was yelling, "Big one," and backing down the boat, but we were losing line. The reel was smoking, and he almost took it all on that first run. All you could do is hold on. And that's all the marlin did. He rested, time passed, the seas calm. He's coming up and close to the boat now. 500 pounds of brute strength and power, up, clear out of the water. Look at him, he's going to try for the sky. he goes again, all over the ocean, but he's tiring now. And Archie's making him work for every foot of the line. He's throwing his stomach. A piece of my bonita comes flying almost into the boat. This is a frequent trick of the black marlin. Apparently, he can throw out the stomach and then take it back when he wants to. But now it's my turn to put on the pressure. With that flying gaff in him, we drag him by the tail to drown him. He's way too big to be handled safely any other way. And the boys still don't want to get around that big bill. It's the size of a baseball bat, and just one stroke of it could break a man's arm. Suddenly, though, it's sad to see him there, dying. An old man of the sea with big staring eyes and the scars of many battles. You really wonder how many sharks and marlin he's killed. But that's the story of the sea, and now it's his turn. And it's our turn to rest, while the crew pick up a big fat sea turtle for supper. And what a turtle. He'd make supper for the whole village. He doesn't seem to be afraid of the boat, just lies there sunning. Gaffing him is one thing. Putting him aboard is another. It'll take more than one man for sure. He weighs probably 100 pounds or more. Everyone keeps well clear of the front end, we noticed. And they promptly turn him over to make sure it's a male turtle. They eat the flesh of the males only, their only explanation being that the females are too trashy. Uh-oh. He turned out to be a she. And she's a little perturbed about it all. She's really not mad at that gaff, but she would happily bite off a man's hand with one snap. Okay, the game's over. She knows where the water is, and she heads for it. A chance for another cigar. But here we go again. Now what? Whatever it was, pulled a hit and run. Probably a sail or dolphin just playing. Oops, there he is again. It is a dolphin, a pretty fair-sized one. They're so plentiful in these waters, they really get to be a nuisance, but a beautiful one at that. Gold, green, and blue. There's something after him. He's running to the surface. A dark shadow closes in. It's a big shark, and he knows the dolphin is too whipped to run anymore. He moves in coolly now for the kill. One bite, and the dolphin dies, his brilliant colors changing now to a fading gold. We'll leave the remaining half of the dolphin in the water, because maybe the shark will come back. And if he's gluttonous enough, he may take the head and the hook. He's coming back now for another pass, all right, but just toying with his prey, biting and pulling and tearing at it in one motion. The sea leaves no scraps. The head of the dolphin is sinking now slowly out of sight, and the big killer is gone. But a smaller shark moves in, sees the sinking fish, and bloop, he swallows it. Now it's his turn to feel the hook and the fight of the line, and he's going to get what's coming to him. Deckhands hate sharks. His grotesque face shows no pain, but he's leaving a trail of blood, and his brothers soon will rip him to pieces. Another rule of the sea. Back at camp, the drinks are cool and the tales are tall. And the trouble is, you can't argue because the most fantastic story is likely to be true. They're tall stories of all the fish we've seen. The red snapper surfacing in such numbers that the water turns red for acres. The striped marlin, wildest, prettiest of jumpers. The tuna, so plentiful, commercial boats come all the way from San Diego, California to catch them. The porpoise, friend of all fishermen, enemy of all sharks. The dolphin, gorgeously colored, so plentiful and so large, they're a nuisance. And the greatest of them all, His Majesty, the black marlin, the old man of the sea. When the engines start on the Grumman and you're going home, you almost wish they wouldn't start. Because now you know this isn't just a sign, it's the truth. This little harbor called Peñas Bay is what those tall stories have said it was, a Panama paradise, so near and yet so wonderfully far away from it all.